asking about altitude training. Specifically, he asks train high, live low, and he has the ability to drive up to his local ski resort at 6,000 feet. And so he's just wondering, is there any benefit? Would there be much gain for doing this, to go, drive up there to ride? I understand the pros of doing this the opposite, but he's found very little information on train high, live low.
Yes, that's because it's not really a thing. The physiological benefit comes from train low, live high. That you stimulate red blood cell production, and then you go down low where you're able to train at a higher quality, make better power output, train hard, and then you go up to sleep, and that's the adaptation. So riding high, living low is the opposite, but there are some benefits. Temperature, when it gets really hot, it's really nice to go up to like the peak-to-peak highway, do some good training. And one thing that just occurred to me, what happens when you go up higher? You have less oxygen. You're unable to make as good a power output, and you're not able to kind of flog yourself as much. Your power outputs are lower, and so the training stress from that is lower. And I am recalling, how like the runners here in town go up onto Magnolia Road, and they run up there, and I think that's to minimize the stress of like if they were to do that down here, they're going to run a lot faster, and they're a lot more muscle damage. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to any running coaches, but Magnolia Road is a road up here in Boulder, and it's at about 8,000 to 9,000 feet. It's a very popular running segment for the 10Kers. They go up high to run, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the physiological stress is less.
I mean, it's pretty stressful to ride and train at altitude. I mean, but I think it's maybe it would make sense maybe it does make sense if you don't want to do crazy high heart rate or high like intensities, while still getting some quality training. I think it makes more sense to do the sleep high, train low, because then you can get those benefits. But I don't know. I think it's weren't you saying that there was a great podcast you listened to recently about this phenomena?
Yeah, on Flow Cycling Podcast, Dr. Robert Chapman was a guest. He's an altitude expert with USA Track and Field, and he was saying the question that this goes to Sebastian's question, which is coming up next, is the question that we always get is when you should go to altitude for competing at an altitude event. So like Masters Nationals this year is in Colorado Springs, and for the other, that's great for us here in Colorado. It really won't affect us too much. But for the athlete coming from Indiana or Mississippi or Louisiana, they live at sea level. It's like, how is that going to affect them? And then what can they do to adapt to that? And it's a common ask for athletes. I mean, Masters Nationals was in Ogden a couple years ago. Mountain Bike Nationals this year is in Winter Park.
Yep.
And that's even higher here in Boulder. I think that's like I'm gonna say 8,000 feet. That's like the base is like 7,500.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's a thing. And so in this podcast on Flow Cycling, Dr. Robert Chapman said they studied the effects of altitude on 3 different experimental groups. One was the group that came in 3 weeks or more sooner to adapt. One was the group that drove up over the course of 2 days. And then one was a group that came in as late as possible, like the evening before. And so his conclusion was it really didn't matter. They didn't find any significant difference. And so coming in the night before the race presents some logistical problems and preparation problems.
Yeah, even separate from the altitude.
Right. So it's a pro-con. It's like, hey, you may minimize the effects of altitude, but you haven't done number pickup. You haven't seen the course. It's slightly stressful. Probably won't get a good night's sleep. So to do all those things and then not really worry about the altitude, that it's a pro-con. And so I think to answer your question is just come in when it's going to work for you and Yeah, the altitude is going to affect you. The reduction in oxygen is it's about 1% per 1,000 feet of differential. That's an estimation.
Yeah.
Drink lots of water when you come up. We have less. You lose a lot of body water weight when you come up to altitude, and when you race, maybe not look at your power meter so much because it's going to be lower. Race by feel and heart rate.
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of coming back to Chris's question about going up to the ski resort. I think I've also read, and maybe I'm completely wrong here, but I've also read that the altitude difference of like going up to altitude to train there's not a huge, and even sleeping, there's not a huge difference unless it's like above 8,000 feet, I think. Does that sound right? Like there's not a huge benefit to doing anything lower than that. And so again, it's like, well, logistically, what's it like for you to go up there? Like, is it going to take a lot more time out of your day, taking time away from recovery? I think you probably won't see a ton of benefit from like going up to 6,000 feet to train, on a regular basis. But I mean, I think it's worth self-experimenting on.
What you're talking about, you need a differential of about 5,000 feet.
Okay, that was it. That's
so
right.
To realize the physiological advantage of train low, live high.
Yeah.
And so if you live at 2,000 feet, you need to go up to like 7,000 feet or higher. And so like the Euro pros will go to Gran Canaria, and I think they do it in meters over there, but it's a difference of like, 4,800 feet. You can sleep up on the mountain and go all the way down, do the training low, and then go back up on the mountain. And it's a big enough altitude difference to actually stimulate physiological adaptations.